চ্যানেল 52 চায়ের কাপে কবিতা অনুষ্ঠানে আপনারা যারা দেখছেন আমেরিকা এবং অন্যান্য দেশ থেকে সবাইকে স্বাগত শুভেচ্ছা। আমি ফারুক আজম নিউ জার্সি থেকে সরাসরি লাইভে। আজ আমাদের মধ্যে একজন কবি আছেন মেক্সিকো থেকে এবং তার সুবিধার্থে আমরা অনুষ্ঠানটা কিছুটা বাংলা কিছুটা ইংরেজি মিলিয়ে করব। So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Channel 52's Poetry in a Teacup, welcome to the show. We'll be having some quality time with poets, poetry, tea, and chatting. You can also say that we'll be raising a storm in a teacup. In America, they say tempest in a teapot. But our storm will not be on important matter. It is pretty serious. It is poetry, not an easy topic. Let me have the pleasure of introducing our guests. I'll go to poet Fer de la Cruz. MA, he comes from the land of the Nobel laureate, 1990 Nobel laureate, poet Octavio Paz. But since then, there have been many other fabulous poets. We'll be hearing from him. And also have to mention that the nice photo that you have seen on the poster, credit goes to his friend Victor Aguilar. Fer is a Mexican poet from Yucatan. As I see that Yucatan is a beautiful place, nicely cradled between the Gulf of Mexico and the Mayan civilization. He writes lyric poems, satirical poems, and poems for children. Fernando, can I call you Fernando? You can unmute.
Yes, certainly.
We'll know more about you as we get into the program. But first, I want to say, bienvenido al programa.
Gracias, Farouk. Donobat.
De nada. Okay, now let me have the pleasure of introducing a very poignant poet, Mr. Al Imran Siddiqui. He's from New Jersey, from my land, sort of. We are both from Bangladesh. He has published 3 collections of poetry. He's also the editor of Nocturne, a Bengali literary magazine. Currently lives in New Jersey, USA. Al Imran Siddiqui is a banker by profession.
Good morning.
Mr. Siddiqui, welcome. He's a banker by profession. We all need money. Probably most of the things that we do is for free, but probably he will change the trend.
Yes.
Last but not the least, maybe the most important one, saving the best for the last. Let me have the pleasure of introducing Laila Farzana.
Thank you.
She is an architect by profession, graduated in architecture from Bangladesh University of Engineering University. Later, she received her higher education in architecture and urban design design from Columbia University in the city of New York, USA, and from University of Toronto. Besides that, she's a very talented lady. She is an actor. She writes, she's a playwright, a poet. She's awaiting publication of her first book of poetry at the upcoming book fair in Bangladesh, what is called Ekushe Boimela, which is where it is based on Rhapsody of a Fallen Leaves, Jhara Rhapsody. Past publication, collection of poems, Reflected Sunshine 2020, Portfolio Roddur, Akash Lena 2020, Under the Blue Roof 2019. Many of her poems have been published in various literature and poetry magazines. And now I welcome Laila Farzana. You are most welcome to this group of talented poets.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm feeling very honored to be invited in this beautiful program that I'm watching since it started. I'm feeling also very excited to hear so many good poems from Al Imran, from Fair, and of course you as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Before we start, one of the first criteria that I would like each one of you to pass is that do you have a teacup? Are you all having a teacup?
This is
Because
mine.
we are going to raise a storm in a teacup. But first, let us start with a poem. How about if we go to Fair? There's a something more about Fair that, as I said, that he writes also poems for children. His publication included books of literary translation, as well as his own works of fiction and non-fiction. He has published more than 20 books. Awesome. For his poetry, he has received one international and two national awards in his native Mexico. He is a PhD student at the University of California, Irvine. You are from California now. How's the weather?
Oh, it's lovely.
Oh
It's,
man,
warm, and I like warm coming from Yucatan, but there's much less humidity here. Oh, it's really a beautiful weather.
we are getting jealous because yesterday, the old man winter visited us and he created a havoc. There was so much snow. In some places, they even had like over 2 feet of snow. But luckily, we had like, what do you think, about 8 inches? Huh? Imran? We had like about 8 inches of snow. So it was not bad. I cleaned it with my snow blower. So my whole
Me
body
too.
is, huh?
Me too.
Yeah. So my whole body is aching. But anyway, I think poetry is a great healer, both for the soul and the body. So take it away, Fair.
Okay, I'm going to read a poem that is compiled in Poemas Espirales, which came out in 2020. And it's a series of poems that are named after the Greek letters. The first one is alpha, the second one is beta, and so on. And in the end, it restarts again as in a spiral. So, poem Iota attempts to respond a main question throughout the book, and it's what, if anything, is what sustains us as humanity. And so maybe it is love. So I'm going to read it in Spanish first, uh, at least a few lines in Spanish, and then I will ask Farouk to read it in Bengal. It was
Sure.
beautifully translated by my friend Anis, who is also the translator of 100 Years of Solitude into Bengal by Gabriel García Márquez.
Wow.
Y si están en lo cierto los que aman, los que no encuentran, buscan su prórroga perpetua, en vez de andar pasando, en vez de andar pensando en si el todo es elíptico, lineal o ensortijado, o va formando ochos u ochentas en el éter, o va caracoleando comiéndose el vacío, o duerme en sus laureles soñando sus fronteras. Well, this is only a fragment, and Mexican Spanish speakers who may be listening to this will probably recognize line embedded within my lines by famed, well, there are a few famous poets embedded here. Here's a line by Jaime Sabines, whom I deeply admire.
Okay, so should I read the Bengali one?
Oh, please.
It is iota, right?
Mhm.
And it is translated by Anisuzzaman. যারা ভালোবাসে তারা যদি ঠিক হয়, যারা খুঁজে পায় না সবে কি অনন্ত বিস্তার, রৈখিক নাকি কোঁকড়ানো, ভাবার বদলে বা ইথারের উপর সেটা ৮ নাকি ৮০, নাকি সম্মুখের মতো গিলে ফেলেছে শূন্যতাকে, নাকি তেজ পাতায় শুয়ে স্বপ্ন দেখছে নিজ সীমান্ত? আর যারা আড়মোড়া ভাঙে আর একই মুখে পান করে শরাব, ঝর্ণা বানায় আকাশ গঙ্গা থেকে, ভবিষ্যতে এড়িয়ে সাঁতার কাটে আদিম লীলায়, জ্যোতিকে প্রলম্বিত করে নিজেদের কৃষ্ণ বিয়োবনে। যেখানে এমনও কি সময়ের নেই অস্তিত্ব, আপাতত সবচেয়ে শরীরী আলোচনায় বিচরণ, নিজস্ব মহাকর্ষে ক্ষণের বপন, একেবারে মধ্যস্থানে মিলনোৎসব, আর সব থেকে কম ভয় নিজেকে হারিয়ে ফেলার। পরোয়া করে না তারা, ঠিক যদি হয়, যদি অতি ক্ষীণ শাশ্বত রাখবে স্মরণ, তারা হবে নক্ষত্রের ধূলি, হবে তারা ভস্য প্রেমের।
Nice
It's a,
poem.
it's a beautiful poem.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments to make, Imran?
Beautiful.
It's a nice poem, and the translation is also so good. I know Anis is he's a good translator, and I want to listen some poem from Fernando too, his own poems.
Yeah, I think that was his own poem that was translated in Bengali,
Oh,
right?
so your poem? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that was his poem. I read it
Yes.
was in Bengali.
Yeah.
Let me just add that the other two poems whose
Mhm.
lines are embedded at the very end is Jose Gorostiza, who was a revered Mexican poet, and also Francisco de Quevedo, a universal of the Spanish language. It ends with playing a dialogue with all those poets.
Yeah, please. You can continue, Fernando. You said you want to add something to the poem.
No, it's a nice poem.
Well, I just
It's
mentioned.
beautiful.
Okay, by the time, let me take some time to read some comments. Mo Madhuvanti, you know her. She is a poet and a good organizer. She runs her many shows online. She said, Fernando, my dear, congratulations. Sharmeen Akhtar, welcome, welcome Laila Farzana. Mahfuza
Thank
Ananda,
you.
Mahfuza Ananda, she's from Bangladesh, a very popular young poet. She has multiple books which were like bestsellers. She writes, congratulations, nice presentations, thank you. Mohammed Salahuddin, he is an IT, a very talented guy from Bangladesh. He says, best wishes, Sharmin Akhtar, by Chamatkar Unubad. Thank you, Sharmin. Okay, so let's go to Imran with his poem.
Okay, thank you. So I want to read a poem. It's English poem. It's Puri. It's translated by Shafinu Shafin. So let's start. Ringer is not enough to show hatred now, only to utter some fatal words in sleep. People can neither rule or resist the past, only to get anger. Cat jumps at the flying bubble, stress feeble paws. I realize the flower, same as those grief has dried from me, drop out on the water.
Nice.
Thank you.
Wow.
So
So,
I can read another poem in Bengali too if you
sure,
want.
sure, you can.
হাওয়া হয়ে গেল বাতাসের কুড়িনিশ, মরু নকশায় সান্ধ্য আকাশ ভরা, বিষণ্ণ মুখ কাপা কাপা গিয়ে এগিয়ে নিতে পারি ঠোঁট জোড়া। ক্ষীণতোয়া নদী অচর্চিত এই নদী তীর, কেন যে কে নাভিস্থানীয় মনে হলো, মুছে যেতে চায় আমার দীনতা। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Bah, these are short, these are like pearls, you know,
Yes,
very brave, but it is radiating its own ray of beauty.
thank you.
And Imran is also an editor of a magazine called Nocturne, right?
Yes, doctor.
So are you nocturnal by nature?
No, I'm not nocturnal. But this name is chosen by one of another editor, Amit Chakraborty, and it's a nice name.
It
How
is. It
come
is.
you're not a nocturnal? You are poet after after
Right,
all. You
right.
should be nocturnal
But
anyways.
I think so. Well, what do you think, Fair? Aren't the poets are nocturnal?
You're
Fair?
muted.
Hmm?
You're muted, I think.
I
Fair, you're
think
muted.
Fair. Can you unmute yourself?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I was.
Well,
I was.
I can just say that the experience of listening to Bengali, to Bengal poetry, I can just imagine the words because it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, but as we are talking, that do you think the poets are nocturnal? They love to stay.
Well, no,
Hmm? What do you think?
it depends on the person. Me, I like to sleep
Yeah,
my hours as much as I can, but being a PhD student is hard.
yeah. I heard that about Tagore that he used to get up very early in the morning, like around 3 or 4 in the morning. Then he is to starts writing. Even that Balzac, the French novelist, used to start writing from the midnight. From midnight, he used to change his clothes, dressed all in white. Then he starts to write till the morning. So all night he used to write. But I think most of the people are better. They're more refreshed in the morning. Uh, Anyway, everyone has their own time. But night is beautiful. It's quiet,
Actually,
except
it's very man to man.
it,
So
it, it does. Yeah. Actually, yeah, I do. Everything varies man to man. But night, I think maybe is quietness, and only thing you can hear is some trucks or lorry going in the highways, and you can see the stars, which we don't see nowadays. Okay, Laila, you have anything to add to that?
Um, I basically, sleep late,
Hmm.
and I like a night, the darkness, and then the moon, and then the different color, the illusion, and then the change landscape. All these actually amaze me. Night is has something to add into poetry, so I am a nocturnal poet. So that's I would like to add in that.
All right, so let's go to you, Laila. Uh,
I'm feeling nervous, seeing all these famous poets, especially Fair from the land of Octopupas. I'm a big fan of his, and Imran is,
Tabupas.
very well known poet in our Bengali literature. Um, so I try to, as you know, that my first book, my poetry book, is going to publish soon. I will read some of the Bengali poem from there. But as Fair is here, Nando is here, I like to read one of my English poem that I wrote recently for my another book. So the name of the poem is Iguana. That's a syllabic poem. In my dream, there comes a blue iguana. His fragile future haunts me every night. With a fish sparkle and bore sight of a bird, he waits for my death at green leaves of a tree. His sharp nails scratches my bark off my poor soul, and I think of his warm promises he forgot. Thank you.
Beautiful. Do you have it in Bengali as well, this poem?
Um,
You
yeah,
can
I
read
do.
it
I
in.
do. Anyways, yeah. Let me read it. Um, give me 1 second if you don't mind.
Sure, sure. You can all jump into the discussion, Imran, Fair. You know, you don't wait for me to call upon you, but you can join in. You have any comments?
Well, let me comment that I think it's a very powerful poem because it through a very concrete thing, which is a reptile, and reptile that we're very familiar with in Yucatan, but it's a blue one. But
Yeah, I love blue,
then,
blue, blue iguana. I mean, it's just like chameleon probably, or chameleon, whatever they call. But I kind of find the similarities of iguana and ourselves in many ways. So that's kind of, and I see in my dreams they're coming often. And I'm just, mentioning one. That's the one I think of all the time. Anyways, I have the Bengali version. I
Yes.
shouldn't have read it because it's going to be published probably in some new book, but just few lines to add into that. নীল ইগুয়ানা, আমার স্বপ্নের ঘুমে আসে যায় এক নীল ইগুয়ানা। সেই নীল ইগুয়ানার খণ্ডিত ভবিষ্যৎ আমাকে ভাবায়। খানিকটা মাছের ঝিলিক আর খানিকটা পাখির উদাস দৃষ্টি নিয়ে কাল্পনিক শীষ গাছের সবুজ পাতায় সে আমার মৃত্যুর অপেক্ষা করে। ধারালো নোকের আঁচড়ে তুলে নেয় আমার বাকল, আর আমি ভাবি তার ভুলে যাওয়া শীতল হাতের উষ্ণ প্রতিজ্ঞার কথা। ভাবি সেই সব জীবনের শীষ দেয়া গানের র‍্যাপসোডি, আর তার ধীর অবক্ষয়। কতটা জীবনহীন একটা জীবন। এতটুকুই থাক।
Beautiful.
কবিতাটা বড় আসলে। আমি কিছুটা অংশ পড়লাম। আম আমি কি আমার অন্য কোনো কবিতা পড়তে পারি নাকি
No, we'll come. I think
আচ্ছা, sure.
everyone will. This is a poetry the adda, so we'll come to that. Uh, she just read a bit of it, but as we say, the morning shows the day, which is not always true. But our poem shows how it's going to be at the end. It's beautifully written.
Actually, I like Laila's poem because she offered a different aesthetics. Her aesthetics, as she lives in New York from a long time, so her aesthetics it's a mix up of contemporary American aesthetics and contemporary Bengali aesthetics. So it's something new to me, and that's why I always appreciate her.
Thank you, Imran.
Well deserved. Do you have anything to add to that, Fair?
Yes, I think that the image of the blue iguana in coming in our dreams, it reflects the uncertainty of today. We have so many uncertainties regarding public health, regarding politics. Scary things are luring, and so it can mean anything. And so I think it's very fitting for our times.
Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. I think Imran, Naila can correct me. I think Jibananda Das had a poem on cat. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. He has a poem on cat, and it's maybe the name of the poem is Shubinoy Mustafi or like something like this.
Something,
Yeah, I think so.
So one of our great poets, Jibananda Das, he also had a poem on, animals. So we are, as Laila was saying, that she finds a lot of similarity with us and the iguana animal. So we go back to the Charles Darwin, right? We have our origin. So there are some similarities. Um, so men are, we can say, by logic, men are animals.
Humans are animal, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let
I was
me.
thinking, okay, women are not just the men are.
No, I said man, M-E-N.
I got it.
So, yeah, let me read few comments. Farzana Shampa is from Halifax, Canada. She said, "Shotti অসাধারণ."
Thank you.
Thank you, Farzana. Milton Ahmed is an actor, is in our group, a very humorous guy. He says, "সবাইকে অভিনন্দন." Greetings to everyone. You are welcome. Thank you, Milton. Moshami Chaudhary, excellent, Laila Farzana.
Thank you.
মিল্টন আহমেদ চমৎকার মুনমুন ভালো
Thank
লাগছে
you.
ভালো লাগছে সুন্দর আয়োজন ফারা হাসিন কতটা জীবনহীন একটা জীবন
Thank you.
সো স্ট্রং এ লাইন লাইলা ফারজানা কিভাবে লিখলেন এত
কি
বলিলাই আপনি
জীবনহীন জীবনকে জীবন্ত করার জন্য লিখলাম, যদি জীবন্ত হয়।
So everything is for Laila Fazara, nothing for us.
No, so far nothing. But Tipu Sultani is a very dynamic person, a very good old friend of mine. He's a leader. I think he's in Bangladesh now. He had a beautiful garden of all different kind of fruits, the very rare collection. He writes, বেশ ভাল লাগলো Farzana. He liked
Thank
Farzana's
you. Thank you.
poem. Sharmin Akhtar, নীল কি মুনমুনের প্রিয় রং? Is
আমার
blue.
প্রিয় রং নীল এবং লাল। থ্যাংক ইউ, থ্যাংক ইউ। থ্যাংক ইউ
Uh,
শারমিন আপু। I love
Sharmin,
you.
Sharmin Akhtar, Imran, আরো কবিতা শুনতে চাচ্ছি. Imran's poems are very short, sweet, very intense. So it's like a flash. It comes
My
and goes.
my poems are actually not short, so I
Yeah,
don't.
he writes big, huge, long poems. I love Imran's poems. It's so, so soothing, and even anytime you can find peace, calmness, and also fair. I love your poem.
Thank you.
I read some of
Yeah,
it.
I like his poems too.
Actually, I don't want to waste your
Thank
time.
you.
That's why I'm reading the short poems. Whatever. So I have a question to Fernandez. So can you please share your thoughts on contemporary Mexican literature?
Yeah.
Contemporary means the literature from the poets who start writing in 21st century, maybe the novelist. So I want to know about this. So actually, when we think about the Mexican literature, actually we take it as a whole. We don't divide the Latin American culture in Brazilian culture, Mexican, or because of the harmony in Latin America. So I want to know about uh, Mexican
Cer-
literature, particularly
Certainly,
Mexico.
one of the things that distinguishes Mexico and many Latin American countries is are the number of native languages. There are over 50 native languages, and in Yucatan, where I come from, the prominent language is Mayan, Yucatec Mayan in particular. And Mayan poets are, I don't want to say they're emerging, but they are becoming very strong and so beautiful. And I want to read and share with you a very brief poem by a Mayan poet named Briseida Cuevas Cobb, who is from Tepacan, Campeche, in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's a neighboring state with Yucatan. And I'll read the only the first line in its original Mayan because I am not fluent in that beautiful language. The poem is called Wolistan. Chene mauts tutan apulik tunich ti. Uh, Voice ball. Briseida Cuevas Cobb. The whale does not like that you throw stones. It disturbs his tranquility. The game does not please him. If you wish to play with him, make a ball of your voice, throw it, watch it come back to you. And this
Wow.
is from translated. This was translated into English by my dear friend and colleague Jonathan Harrington. I present to you Briseida Cuevas Cop only as a sample of how powerful the voices of women and men and also non-binary poets within the great number of Mexican native languages.
That's awesome. They're very powerful and intense. We can
So
find them.
so as far I know, all the Nobel laureates from Latin America they used to write in Spanish. So what about the other native languages? There are
Well, only the Mayan is a family of languages, but in central Mexico they speak Nahuatl or Nahua. Zapotec and Mixtec are also very prominent languages. Even in the states, you hear music in those languages. Lila Downs was very famous for performing songs in Zapotec and in Mixtec. Well, there are over 50 of those language, and the voices that have been emerging for last the past couple of decades or more are very prominent.
So,
And
okay, fine.
I
Yeah,
mean,
carry on.
Farzana was mentioning about Octavio Paz, who got his Nobel Prize in 1990.
Mhm,
I mean, then he has become very
mhm.
famous and well known. Let me read one of his poems. Maybe you can translate it in Spanish. Uh, it says, "Touch my hands, open the curtains of your being, clothe you in a further nudity, uncover the bodies of your body. My hands invent another body for your body."
We certainly must not forget our huge voices, such as Octavio Paz. That poem goes, mis manos abren las cortinas de tu ser, te visten con otra desnudez, descubren los cuerpos de tu cuerpo, mis manos, inventan otro cuerpo a tu cuerpo.
No.
Yes, that is Octavio Paz, and he's the
Nice,
author of a monument called Piedra de Sol as well.
nice sound. That's why I want to learn Spanish.
The tree within, a tree within, that poem is so, I mean, it's a short poem, but I mean, I can relate to that poem so much, his poem.
And Octavio Paz has some similarity with Jibanananda Das. You know, the uh, both poets are close to nature, and their poems is contains silence and fantastic musical easy. I think so.
I think he has also spent a significant time in India, so he
Yes,
knows about
yes,
the
yes,
culture.
Yes.
yes. It's a little bit spiritual too.
Yes. I mean, there's sense, he says, I open the curtains of your being, clothe you in a further nudity.
Yes,
That's amazing. So there are layers. There's the beauty of the poems because there are layers of thoughts, one after another.
Mhm.
And it may be small, but there are so much things are said, which in the prose you have to write like pages to express the same thing.
and Octavio Paz was also a fan of Rabindranath Tagore too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that reminds me of Fair. You wrote a poem based on Tagore's
I
poem,
did.
right?
I did, yes. I have it here, and I have it translated into English. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah,
Please,
yeah,
please.
yeah. I think yeah. Then we'll go to Imran. Then we'll go to Laila. Okay, you can
Okay,
you can read it.
I'll read a couple of the lines, just the opening lines in Spanish. It's called
Mhm.
Poema Siete. Dentro de esta vasija está el destino, disuelto en los océanos como la sal que suelta las estrellas sobre la espuma, el viento y el deseo. I'll skip to the English translation. It was translated by Don Cellini. Don Cellini is an amazing Ohio poet. The line is from the epigraph from the songs of Kabir, which came to us through Rabindranath Tagore. Indeed, within this vessel are the seven oceans and the unnumbered stars. Within this vessel lies raw destiny, as dissolved in the oceans, as salt released by stars, on the foam, the wind, as desire. I can make music with it, like striking a silent cavern, like finding light at the end of sounds, or fill it with verses instead of writing them to you, or with ashes and death scrolls, or find an escape by smashing it to pieces, by turning it back to earth, in which to plant sunflowers always looking at you. I can use it to keep change, which, as it loses value, maintains the memory of what is no more. I can cure it with wine, which will taste like the clay of its origin, like the final dusts of uncertainty. I can sell it or give it away or leave it here in the corner of now, alien to winds and to the faces of the moon, alien to shadows, sun, to the comets, and know I am its owner, and know I am its potter, and know within this empty vessel lie destiny.
Great,
Thank you.
nice, very nice.
There's a comment here. They say from Tanzila Labunno, she's also a host of many other programs. She writes, like to hear a Latin poem from Mr. Cruz. And in that sense, in that context, let me also read a few other comments. Tipu Sultan, Shubho Kamuna Roilo, Agami Lekhalekhi Jude, Tanzila, greetings and all the best. So they want to hear a Latin poem from you, but we'll come back to that. Let me go to Imran. Imran, with your next poems.
আমার পরের কবিতাটা এবার যেটা পড়বো সেটা বাংলায় পড়বো একটু।
হুম।
কবিতাটার নাম হচ্ছে সন্তাপহীন। এটা আমি লিখেছি 2012 দিকে। আষাঢ়ের ভেজা সেতু শুকাচ্ছে সন্তাপহীন বিকালের নম্র রোদে, পানিতে ফুলের ছায়া আজ হাঁসের মতোই চঞ্চল। চাই না কখনো আর আঁকি এইসব দৃশ্য ধরে রাখি, নিজের অনেক কিছু আঁকা হয়ে যায়, বলা হয়ে যায় তাতে। নম্র আলো তুমি ভালো, মনে হলো এ জীবন অসামান্য, আমার যেন বা সামান্য আর বলবার মতো নাই। থ্যাংক ইউ।
খুবই সুন্দর, ইমরান।
And I can read an English poem, translated poem. It's translated by Amit Chakraborty, one of my favorite poem of my time. So the name of this poem is Ripple. Never said my days are prosaic, never said they are resplendent, army green days o' mine. Wind is crushing woodpecker nest. Seldom I spread my arms, the notion of flying a gentle fascination. Name of one or two stars, one or two notes of the melody I learned today. Incessant sky, the sun sets, my thoughts are boundless. The lingari descends, even so straightly, through those tender legs. Thank you.
It's like the poem that Fair read about throwing stones in the whale, and the voice. So your one is like the voice that is echoing in our heart. So you have thrown some voices that keeps on echoing.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, let's go to Laila.
আমার আসন্ন বইমেলায় যে বইটি আসতে যাচ্ছে, ঝরা পাতার র‍্যাপসোডি, ওইটা থেকে আমি একটি কবিতা পড়ে শোনাচ্ছি। I like to, I'm speaking in Bengali to, let for Nando knows that how we talk. So this is a poem from that's going to be published soon. The Rhapsody of Fallen Leaves, if you say in English, is in Bengali. It's a Jhora Patar Rhapsody. The name of the poem is Kafkaesque.
Acha, Farzana, let me interrupt for a second. Let me read a few comments which is related to Imran's poem. And also one comment to Milton. He said about Cruz. Excellent, Mr. Cruz. Love it on your poem. And Yasmin Zaman, she lives in Canada but now in Bangladesh. She writes, beautiful Imran Siddiqui. And Mihir Harun is a literary guy from Bangladesh. সবাইকে শুভকামনা। প্রিয় অনুষ্ঠানে যুক্ত হতে পেরে খুবই ভালো লাগছে, যদিও আজ নেটে খুব সমস্যা করছে in Bangladesh. Hopefully they will be able to watch it all through the program. Okay, sorry Laila, let's go back to you.
I like to say that I didn't make any English version of it, so it is the only Bengali I'm gonna read. এবার আমি আমার পুরো জীবনটাকেই পুড়ে ফেলতে পারি এই একটি ছবিতে। যেমন এই সময়, এই বারান্দা, এই চেয়ার এবং এই পটভূমি চিরস্থির, পরিবর্তনশীল। শুধু এই বারান্দায়, এই চেয়ারে আমার সামনে বসে থাকা মুখগুলো। প্রায়শই দিনের পরিবর্তে আমরা দেখা করি রাতে। রাতে কারণ দৃশ্যটি রাতে বেশি সুন্দর। রাতে কারণ রাতগুলো আরো বেশি জীবন্ত। রাতে কারণ রাতগুলো আরো বেশি রঙিন। ঘরের আলো এই অন্ধকারে তারার মতো জ্বলে ওঠে। ঢেকে দেয় ভবনের মুখ, হাইব্রিড পোকামাকড় এবং শারীরিক বিকৃতি। বিগ বক্সগুলোর পার্কিং লট, মেটামরফিক গার্ডেন অফ এডেন। রাতের ল্যান্ডস্কেপে সম্পূর্ণ বদলে যায় কুৎসিত ভবনগুলোর আকৃতি। মিটিংয়ের জন্য তাই রাতই ভালো। আরো ভালো তা বাড়ানোর উদ্দেশ্য। মানুষকে কেবল ১ জন, ২ এবং ৩ জন এবং দূরত্বের সাথে দেখা যায়। আমি বাইরে যাই না। তবু প্রতিবারের চেয়ে কম দেখি না। এই কারণে এই দৃশ্যটি আমার আগের ভ্রমণের চেয়ে ব্যাপক। এই জীবন আগের জীবনের চেয়ে দীর্ঘ। এই অন্ধকার আরো গভীর। এই অন্ধকারে পাহাড় পরিষ্কার নয়। যখন রাতে এখানে এসে বসি, ছবিটি সম্পূর্ণ না হওয়া পর্যন্ত মনে মনে তাদের সিলুয়েটগুলো কল্পনা করি। এই পাহাড়ের ছবিগুলো ছাড়া এই ভূগোলের যাত্রা অসম্পূর্ণ। ভ্রমণ হয় মাটি আর নয় তার অনুসন্ধানের অভিপ্রায় নিয়ে অথবা সাক্ষাতের উদ্দেশ্যে। এইবার এই ভ্রমণের উদ্দেশ্য ছিল ৮টি সিগাল, একটি ডানাওয়ালা কুকুর, ৮খানা ঘুড়ি উড়ানো ব্যাম্বি, বাক্সবন্দী শরীর, খোলা মাথা, এই স্থির ছবি এবং কিছু ভ্যারিয়েবল। পরিবর্তনগুলোই আমার সেরা সম্পদ। যখন আমি ফিরে আসব। অনুষ্ঠানের শুরুতে নকটার্নাল নিয়ে কিছু কথা হচ্ছিল। আমার নামও লায়লা। আমার লায়লা মানে হলো সুন্দরী রাত। তো রাত জানি না আমার জীবনের সাথে খুব ওতপ্রোতভাবে জড়িত। এখানেও রাতের একটা বর্ণনা আছে। করোনাকালীন জীবন যেটা, তার সাথে রাত এবং আমার কিছু বিক্ষিপ্ত চিন্তাভাবনা নিয়ে কবিতাটি লেখা। আমি জানি না নান্দো কতটুকু কি বুঝতে পেরেছে। আমি চাইলে আরেকটি আ আ মানে যদি সময় থাকে আমি পড়তে পারি আরেকটি কবিতা যেটির ইংলিশ আমি লিখেছি, পড়েছি যদি
হুম,
যদি
হ্যাঁ,
বলেন।
হ্যাঁ, পড়ো।
We were talking earlier that we have a lot of animals. I have a lot of animals in my poem. All the poems you can find some of the animals. I don't know why is that, but it comes off and on. The name of the poem in Bengali, রুশোর বিড়াল। রুশো, তোমার বিড়ালটা আমাকে দাও, খেলবো। হয়তো তোমার মনে নেই সেটা আকাশ ছিল। আমিও হলুদ চোখ নিয়ে কিছু স্বপ্ন দেখতে চাই। সেই সোফাটাও দিও। রুশো, তুমি কি জানো তুমি ভীষণ বোকা? যদিও আমাকেই বোকা ভেবেছ। আমার কাপড় খুলে নিয়েছ, আমাকে ঘুম পাড়িয়ে আমারই স্বপ্ন চুরি করেছ। রুশো, আমি সমুদ্রের নিচে নই, ওগুলো পানি নয়, ওগুলো খোলস ভাঙা ঝিনুক। আর ওইখানে যে মুক্তগুলো, সেগুলোও স্বপ্ন নয়। এইখানে দেখো রক্ত ছুঁয়ে যেখানে আমি। ইংলিশে যেটি, ইংলিশটা অতটা একটু কাঠখোট্টা মনে হতে পারে। The poem is Rusho's cat. Rusho, give me your cat, I'll play. Maybe you don't remember the sky. I too want to dream with yellow eyes. Give me that sofa otherwise. Rusho, do you know you are naive? Although you think I'm the one. You undressed me. You put me to sleep. You stole my dreams. Rusho, I'm not under the sea. These are not water. These are broken wester. And the pearls that are there are not dreams either. Look here. Touch the blood where I am. Thank you.
Yes, nice poems. So Lyra's poems are basically a little bit morbid, and the poem Kafkaesco, this is one of my favorite poem from her, and I'm eagerly waiting for her books, Jharapada Rhapsody.
Thank you, Imran. Thank you.
Fair, you have anything to say? Anything to add?
Oh, well, after this program is finished, I'm going to go back and listen to both the poems Imran and of Laila in English, and I'm going to find more more of their poetry translated into English.
Right.
I may be tempted of well attempting Spanish translations if they'll allow me to.
Oh,
It-
definitely. We
Of
will be
course,
honored.
I think that is
And
one
I
of
would
the
like to take some of your poems as well to translate in Bengali. It's one of my favorite thing to do. I and Imran, we are like, translating so many poems from, the world literature. So I'd like to add yours into that.
that would be awesome. I mean, and thank you because well, this communication, this dialogue, and mutual influence between East and West and non-Western,
Oh
so
my God.
so, so many
You are the
colors. Not
person, you are the person from Pablo Neruda. What more we can say,
yes.
Latin literature. What can be more than that? Unbelievable.
so,
that is a
okay, fine. So, uh, Fernando, so what do you think about the poetry readership? Is it increased last couple of decades in Mexico, Latin America?
Um, ask me again, please. Can you repeat your
Uh,
question?
do you think that the poetry readership is it increased
I
in
think
Latin America?
what is Imran is saying that how is the reader or the number of people who are in poetry in Latin America or Latin literature. I mean, Latin literature is a broader thing, but in your land,
Well,
like,
I
because
think the key.
it's now we are all fearful that poetry is no it's not there anymore. There are very few people who write poem, and then we are few trying to still holding that last piece of fallen leaf. And so how is the audience there for poetry?
yeah. So is the poetry popular there?
Oh, yes, it is. But it depends on your definition of poetry. I think the key has been to stop seeing, conceiving poetry as something that belongs to the spheres of the divine and the realms of the unsayable. I mean, that is one way to view poetry. But if we bring it down to earth, and we will find so many different forms of poetry that may be more appealing to the diversity of people in Latin America and in the world. And I think that has been the key for poetry becoming um, um, more of a
More acceptable?
magnetic, the magnetism of poets. Well, not acceptable, attractive. When people of different backgrounds can see themselves through poetry, and they can well they can maybe attempt to find, if not find answers, at least to see their own questions reflected in what is being said. So that's why I've been advocating for the diversity of poetic forms, and that again that has been key in achieving a greater number of readers. And I will argue, with that in mind, that poetry has a very healthy status in Latin America, because there are younger poets writing no longer in the that form of metaphysical poems, which is
Correct.
beautiful,
Mhm.
but more in down to earth poems that reflect their
Oh,
own realities and worldviews and fears and situations.
wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So there
You
are
know,
lots of variation. That's good.
we take pride that Bengalis are poets by birth. Everyone is a poet, but there's one.
Like the Italians are architect
uh,
by birth.
yeah,
I have
one.
to say something about
Yeah,
architecture. I'm an architect after all.
and one of the great poets, he says that before the age of 21, everyone is a poet, but after that, if one writes, then he is a poet. But then, Bengalis are full of emotions and all the natural beauties. There are so many poetic programs that goes online, and so many poems are published each day. It is a fantastic thing. But there, as you know, as we talked, poet could it be a dying art? It's not like, when you read, going back in the past, yeah, Homer's Iliad and everything, we can get a sense of the time of that period, and it is through poetry. And they say the poetry is the earliest, is the first form of art before anything else. Then the prose came. But nowadays, people would like to read a fiction, a Robert Ludlum, or, going back to Jeffrey Archer or Vladimir Nabokov. But to read poems, you have to understand because each words, they have so much meaning underneath. It's
Sometimes those stories and no even articles are when we you read it's so lyrical like a poem. So that's also.
So people to get people interested in poetry is not very easy because you have to think, you have to each word has meaning to behind meanings. But I don't want to go back to what Coleridge said, that poetry is the arrangement of the best words in the best forms. Oh,
They say that in a good poetry or poem, one each line is an each each is one novel or something.
yeah.
So
Then who's going to spend their time in trying to understand unless you're a poet? And
It's certainly
I
it's
mean,
more
I'm just
difficult.
throwing it out to you. Yeah,
It's more difficult to sell our work as poets than probably anywhere else in the vast artistic community. It's more difficult to sell your work as a poet than to sell your work as an architect, right?
exactly. Well, architect
Which
is,
is another art form.
but yeah, Italy is the fantastic place for architect. All those beautiful structures and all those, we know of the sculptor Michelangelo,
I I would
Bernini.
say I would say as they're talk you are talking about architecture. So architecture is building something, right? Building a building. So when you poem, you're when you are a poet, you are an architecture of you are an architect of a
Architect, yeah,
poetry. You are building the poem, and even itself, who is not an architect, who is not a poet, they are the builder of their own life. So we are all architects.
in that sense.
You have to
I was
consider
talking,
the
I was
land,
talking,
the soil, and the winds and where light
Yeah,
comes from.
I mean.
Consider all
Uh,
that in
No,
the
Actually,
poem.
I mean, look at this. That we
look,
plan. We plan something. What we're gonna be. We are going to be an architect, or we are going to be a poet. We are going to be an actor. Whatever it is, we plan it. Then we design it, and then sometime we fail. So that's also happened in architecture. In the the literal meaning of architecture. But our life is also an architecture. I see it in that way, and we are all architect of our life. So everybody is so that's
actually,
how it's relate.
that
It's
sounds
a,
good, but architect and like architect, poetry and poem and like poem are not the same thing, you know.
they're not saying, and
Because because Naila, you looks like a poem, but you are not a poem actually.
I was watching the show Medici, and they have some beautiful things about how they built all those beautiful places like the Sistine Chapel and other beautiful architect. But let me go back to the poetry and the prose. I was talking to one of the very famous and popular poet of Bangladesh. His name is Nirmalendra Gun. He's undoubtedly the most popular poet. And he was telling me that nowadays people are not buying the book of poetry as before. So there is a trend that people like, our literature, Humayun Ahmed was much popular and he has infiltrated in all the sectors of life. But poetry is kind of limited to some people who loves poetry, who understands and who cultivates it. So the fate of poetry, for myself, I think it is kind of grim.
Actually, as Fernando mentioned, that the form of poetry is changing. So there are several kinds of poetry. Uh, one oral version of poetry. What is it called, Laila? The
what
oral. the oral tradition.
Yeah,
Um,
in the past. Mm,
uh, I mean, you mean
Uh,
puthi?
no, 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 no. Some poems only these are only oral.
স্বভাব কবি,
No,
Charun Kavi, Charun Kavi.
চারণ কবি.
no, 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 not English. I will check it. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
we have our good friend Google.
ইয়া গোগল সাহেবকে ফোন করলেই হবে, জাস্ট
Okay,
কল করে দাও.
if you allow me, I can read a poem of my own.
ও
Yes,
ডেফিনেটলি
please.
উইড লাভ টু.
Missing you. In your absence, Times Square has lost its shining armor. There is a stunning darkness enveloping the Broadway, Madame Tussauds, moving from pub to pub, slanting look of the sex worker, Lion King bids to Djambe, Jun, Dijun, Dijun, where are you? Where art thou? Lightning, hypersonic Mini Cooper on highway, racing with flashy Barak's wings of heaven, deep in million eyes, deep, depth in million ice age is the memory of gone by days, crossing millions solar systems and delving in black holes. Memory gets stuck in the neurofibrillary entanglement. Reclining sun, soft afternoon, head bowed to sky, brushing the immunity, settling in breath your name. The naked woman arising from the Mediterranean Sea. All the tunnels, Holland, Lincoln are submerged in the eyes. GPS lost its track to the starry night.
খুব সুন্দর, খুবই সুন্দর. It's very beautiful poem.
Can I read it in Bengali?
Please.
Definitely.
Fernando, this Bengali is for you.
ধন্যবাদ।
তোমার অভাবে আজকাল, তোমার অভাবে ম্রিয়মান টাইমস স্কোয়ার, স্তম্ভিত উল্লাস, লায়ন কিং এর নিষ্প্রভ নিয়ন বাতি, দিজম্বে দিজম্বন ঢোল বাজে, সিম্বার আরতি, তুমি নেই, তুমি নেই, সর্বত্র স্মৃতির ক্যাকটাস, মরুভূমি, পোর্ট অথরিটি বাস টার্মিনাল, বিভ্রান্ত ট্যুরিস্ট, উধাও চালবাজ, পিম্প, কটাক্ষে যৌনকর্মী, দুর্ধর্ষ গতি ঊর্ধ্বশ্বাসে ধাবমান মিনি কুপার হাইওয়েতে মুহূর্তে পৌঁছে দে তাজিবুর রাখ উত্তর মেরু, হাজার শিলা বছর বুকে নিয়ে কোথায় সেই স্মৃতি, অগণিত সৌরমণ্ডল কৃষ্ণ গহ্বর খুঁজি তন্ন তন্ন, হঠাৎ মস্তিষ্কে নিউরোফিব্রিলারি যানজট, পড়ন্ত বেলা, তির্যক রশ্মি, যৌবনের কাছে নত জানু, প্রতিরোধে বুহ, অতিক্রম, ঝর্ণার জলে স্নান, সমুদ্র স্নাত, নগ্ন বক্ষা, উঠে আসে উর্বশী সকাল, হলেন লিঙ্কন টানেল অকস্মাৎ ডুবেছে চোখের ভেতর, জিপিএস বিকল, ক্লান্তিহীন জুয়ারি, গন্তব্য তারা ভরা রাত. So,
Nice.
thank you. And let's go back to fire again. It's your turn.
Okay. I was asked to read something in my native Spanish. I'll read very short, very brief poems for children. My first book for children came out in 2010. I wrote it before, and it's one very brief poem for every letter of the alphabet. And these are language poems, so only Spanish speakers will probably get them. There used to be a letter in Spanish that was the fourth letter in the Spanish alphabet. It was che. was a digrapho, with the ch, and it sounded ch. It is no more. They got rid of it. But I had a poem for it. No es del todo muda la h que estornuda, which translates the letter H is not entirely silent when it sneezes, like that. Then the poem for letter I. Qué difícil es vivir con un punto sobre ti. Well, how difficult it is to live when you have a dot above you. And before that, no hay nada que la H no haya dicho ya, which roughly translates as there's nothing that the letter H has not already said. The Y, que no oye ya la Y, que ya no qué. And y la Z va en zigzag de letra en letra. The letter Z zigzagging around. Well, there's some Spanish for you. Difficult to translate because it's built upon alliterations. But the children, I think they pretty much laugh when they read it.
Nice. Let me read a
Very nice.
let
Love it.
me let me read a comment. Farah Hassin, she is also the owner of this channel. She writes in Bengali, ফারুক ভাই আপনার কবিতাটি শুনতে শুনতে সুধীন্দ্রনাথ দত্তের চাই চাই আজও চাই তোমায় তোমারে কেবলি কবিতাটির কথা মনে পড়ে গেল. Thank you. My poem reminded her of another poem. So there is some language I can't read. Sorry, if you can, I don't know if it is a typo or with your font, if you can write it in English, you can read your comment. Okay, let's go to Imran.
ওকে, আমি যে কবিতাটা পড়বো, কবিতাটার নাম হচ্ছে ইসাই 2016। দিনমান অন্ধকার, দিনমান হাওয়ার শাসানি, ক্যাথরিনের চাকা যেন সারাটা আকাশ খালি ঘোরে, বিদ্যুৎ চাবুক হয়ে আকাশে আকাশে আছড়ে পড়ে। দিনমান হাহাকার, দিনমান ছায়ার গোঙানি, ঝড়ঝাপটা দিন রাত, গুমোট গুমোট ভাব ফাঁকে চলে যাচ্ছে দিনগুলি চলমান নীতির প্রভাবে। বিশাল ঝাঁকুনি লাগে দেখো গড় আয়ুর হিসাবে, লাশের ওপরে বসে মৃত্যু ভাবে মৃত্যু বলে কাকে। জগতে এমন কালে জেগে ওঠে নীরব চিৎকার, নিয়ত দোকানে বিষ বানের মতোই এসে পড়ে। হাত পাশে কিছু নয়, গড়া হলো মগজ পাহাড়, পাহাড় পর্বত হবে, অস্ত্রের যোগান শুধু বাড়ে। চাতালে টায়ার সুইং একাদলে প্রবল বাতাসে, চাতালে টায়ার সুইং একাদলে প্রবল বাতাসে।
থেকে বাংলা বলতে হলে যে চিত্রকল্পে সমৃদ্ধ, very rich in imagination, his poems.
অসাধারণ অসাধারণ ইমরান।
থ্যাংক ইউ।
Let's go to Laila for your next poem.
I'm gonna read. The poem name is Phoenix. Unfortunately, it's in Bengali, Nando. Phoenix. ওরিয়েন্ট করতে পারছি না। দরজাটা কি ডান পাশে? সকাল না বিকাল? নিজেকে আবিষ্কার করলাম পরিত্যক্ত রেলওয়ে জাংশনে। কোথায় যাচ্ছ তুমি? অনুর্বর ব্যারেন ল্যান্ডস্কেপ, তেজস্ক্রিয়তায় পূর্ণ বাতাস, আদিগন্ত বিস্তীর্ণ লাল বাড়িয়ারি। দূরে তেপান্তরে পাশ ফেরা একটি নিঃসঙ্গ কাক, যেন কালো আলখাল্লা আবৃত মাথার খুলি, নয়তো খড়গ হাতে দীর্ঘাঙ্গী ক্রিম রিপার। কেন্দ্র বৃন্তে একটি পপলারকে ঘিরে রুদালিদের শোক, ঝাঝালো মিষ্টি গন্ধ আর গরম ধোয়ার ফিনকি ছোটায় অন্ত্যেষ্টিক্রিয়ার সিন্নি। একটি চড়ুই উড়ে গেল উত্তরে, ডালিমের দানাগুলো ছড়িয়ে আছে জানালার কার্নিশে। কিসের শব্দ? পাতালে পার্সিফোনের গোঙানি, নাকি হেডেসের ফাত পাতা হাসি, নাকি তোমার ঠান্ডা হাত? ফুল স্টপ মুছে আবারও সেমিকোলন করে দিলাম। জেলেদের জালে ধরা পড়েছে সীমাতির সিল, বৃহন্নলা অন্ধচন্দ্র আলোয় মরু জলে আরো কিছু রঙিন কই মাছ। পাহাড়ের ছায়া পড়েছে যেখানে মরে গেছে একটি ফড়িং, শিখরের ছাদে পৌঁছতে পারেনি, দুর্বল তার ডানা লজ্জিত মুখে লুকিয়ে অস্ট্রিচেরা তাই লিখছে বালি খুঁড়ে ইউলজি। সরি, আমি বাকিটা খুঁজে পাচ্ছি না, কোথায় গেল? এতটুকুই থাক।
It's okay.
Okay. So, the purpose of including Fernando Fair is also, because we would like to know your literature and you know our literature. Most of we have very good poets, but I think they have not been translated or they couldn't reach, go out of of our borders or boundary. So this is the way it is. We are basically, as they say, doctors without borders. We want to say that poets without borders. So it is really a pleasure that you are with us, Far. We can read a few more poems. I'm checking my time with the.
How about
Uh,
how about somebody
organizer.
else reads before me? In the meantime, I'll go get
Sure.
আমি আমার
to read.
কবিতার বাকি অংশটুকু পেয়েছি।
পেয়েছেন, okay.
সরি, আমি কবিতার ওই লাস্ট প্যারাটা থেকে শুরু করছি,
হুম,
তাহলে হয়তো থাকবে
হুম।
সেটা। জেলেদের জালে ধরা পড়েছে সীমাথির সিল, বিহন্নলা অন্ধচন্দ্র আলোয় মরু জলে আরো কিছু রঙিন কই মাছ। পাহাড়ের ছায়া পড়েছে যেখানে মরে গেছে একটি ফড়িং, শিখরের ছাদে পৌঁছতে পারিনি তার দুর্বল ডানা। লজ্জিত মুখ লুকিয়ে অস্ট্রিচেরা তাই বালি খুঁড়ে লিখছে ইউলজি। চুলোর আঁচ বাড়িয়ে দাও, জ্বলন্ত আগুনে পুড়ে যাক ক্যালিফোর্নিয়ার গোলাপি সানসেটগুলো। আর আমি পোড়া ছায়ের অতলান্ত থেকে উত্থিত স্ফুলিঙ্গে ডানা ছড়ানো পৌরাণিক পাখি। ধন্যবাদ।
Okay, we are almost at the end of our program. It's a very nice poem, Laila.
থ্যাংক ইউ।
And let's go to Fair. So you ready with your poem?
Yes, thank you. I wrote this chapbook in English directly, 7 Songs of Silent Fireflies. And I'm going to read a very small poem. It's called, well, it's dedicated to Horace for the Carpe Diem thing. Now, that is a Latin thing. The door unlocked. Oh, dark again. Talking about, well, animals. This one features a beautiful animal. A firefly in my bed, a faithless shooting star that lost its way. The window is there, perhaps the moon is waiting, yet it stays. It wanders up in flames, it sparks, almost touching the dry wood of my flesh. Who is to say what things are made of fire this intense? I awake to find the world in ashes once again. Thank you. And Farouque, thank you for including me. I feel very honored to be a part of your program.
It is a great pleasure to have you with us. We'll finish with a poem from Imran.
For me, okay, fine. Okay. So, এই কবিতার নাম হচ্ছে প্রজ্ঞার জন্য গান। বসন্তের এই মেঘলা সকাল বেলা, বৃষ্টি পড়ছে ভোর থেকে টিপটিপ, ঠান্ডা বাতাস দুলে ওঠে ডালপালা, সিঁড়ির গোড়ায় কম্পিত টিউলি। আজকে তোমার সমান ব্যস্ত কই, বসে থাকি ঘরে, বাইরে বৃষ্টি ঝরে, দু কথা বলতে খোঁজ করি তোমাকেই, ব্যস্ত লোককে ফেলি যে আতান্তরে। বৃষ্টির ফোঁটা তোমার মুখটাকে আয়নার মতো ধরে নিয়ে ঝরে যায়, বাইরে দাঁড়ালে কে আর শান্ত থাকে, মিরর মেইজে ওই মুখ ঝলকায়। ভেবে দেখো তুমি এমন মেঘের পাশে, সামর্থ্য কই তোমাকে এড়িয়ে চলি, আজকের দিনে হু হু করে এসে মেশে, বহু পরে নিলে কাঙ্ক্ষিত দিনগুলি। হতে কি পারে না দুজনের মাখামাখি, না হয় মোটেও না থাকলে অজ্ঞাত, গাছেদের ডাল হাওয়ায় দুলছে দেখি, সম্মতি আর অসম্মতির মতো। থ্যাংক ইউ।
এই যে পড়ে-
অসাধারণ একটি সুন্দর কবিতা। আমি
হুম, হুম।
২টা লাইন পড়তে পারি আমার একটি
হ্যাঁ,
প্রিয় কবিতা
sure,
থেকে?
sure, sure. না, এখানে আমি একটু কমেন্ট করি ইমরানের, যে ফারা কমেন্ট করেছিল যে আমার কবিতায় ও সুধীন্দ্রনাথ দত্তের একটি কবিতার কথা মনে পড়েছে। তোমার কবিতা আমার তো সেটাই মনে পড়ছে, কেমন যেন একটা
আসলে
উট পাখি, উট
না,
পাখি।
উট পাখি এবং শাশ্বতীর একই ফর্মে লেখা, এবং রবীন্দ্রনাথের এই ফর্মে কবিতা আছে। হ্যাঁ, মানে সবাই যেমন যেমন আপনার কবিতাটা পড়ে বা আমার কবিতা পড়ে বললো সুধীন্দ্রনাথের মতো হয়েছে, কিন্তু নিশ্চয়ই সুধীন্দ্রনাথকে অনেক লোক বলেছে তোমারটা রবীন্দ্রনাথের মতো হয়েছে।
আচ্ছা, তাহলে ফাইনালি কবিতাটা রবীন্দ্রনাথের মতো হয়েছে। অসাধারণ একটি কবিতা।
এবং
হ্যাঁ,
বিশেষ করে
আবেগপূর্ণ।
একটা লাইন আমার মনে পড়ছিল ওই কবিতায়, যেমন আছে, অন্ধ হলে কি প্রলয় বন্ধ থাকে,
বন্ধ থাকে। হ্যাঁ,
অসাধারণ এই লাইনটি।
অন্ধ হলে।
আমি
তোমার একটা কবিতার লাইন আমার হঠাৎ ওইটা মনে
হ্যাঁ,
পড়ছিল।
একই ফর্ম।
We are talking about a poem uh, that he wrote, and which resonates a poem of another great poet. And so, we have to teach you Bengali next time.
It sounds so
আমি
beautiful.
Yes.
আমি এই কবিতাটি আসলে একটু জোর করেই পড়ছি। সময়ে যদি ২ মিনিট ৪ মিনিট বেশি লেগে যায় আমার কিছু করার নেই। আমাকে কবিতাটা পড়তেই হবে। আম- আমার কবিতার নাম 'গার্ডেন অফ অ্যাসাইলাম'। আমারও ওই মতো একটা বাগান আছে, একটা অ্যাসাইলাম। কেঁচু হয়ে নিউরনগুলো যখন কুরে খায় মস্তিষ্কের মাটি, ওখানে আমি সাইকেল চালাই, ছবি আঁকি তার সাথে। যে আমাকে ভালোবাসে সবচেয়ে বেশি, তার মতো। তার একটা হাসি আছে, যে যখন হাসে তার সারা শরীর হাসে। খুকির মতো সরল সে হাসি। আমি তার আঙুল ধরে রাস্তা পার হই, সে আমার থুতনি ধরে চুল আঁচড়ে দেয়। তার এত মায়া, আমার বুক কাঁপে, অবশ হয়ে আসে আমার আওয়াজগুলো। মেঘ হয়েও যখন ভাসতে পারে না, ঝড়ের ভারী ঘন কালো যে মেঘ, শিরচ্ছেদের হুকুম ছাড়ি হয় যখন ক্রাইমসন রাজার আদালতে, আমার ধূসর সবুজ বাগানে সে ইজেল নিয়ে বসে, গেরুয়া লাল, চোখের জলে বুক ডুবিয়ে, রোদের হলুদ মাখায় আমার মুখে, গুনগুন করে গান গায়। আমার অ্যাসাইলামে শুধু আমি আর সে, আর ভালোবাসা সে তো প্রচলিত একটি ধারণা মাত্র। ধন্যবাদ।
সুন্দর।
আচ্ছা, লায়লার কবিতার মধ্যে কেমন একটা অন্তর্লীন বেদনা আছে,
অন্তরীণ
যে
বিষাদ। হ্যাঁ,
অন্তর্লীন বিষাদ। এবং সেটা, for I was telling her that in her poem there's some sublime pain in all the poems that she said, but I think that every poet has that pain.
কি করব বলেন, ইট কাঠ পাথরের তো আর কষ্ট নেই, মানুষেরই তো কষ্ট।
Exactly. তারপর এটাও বলা যায়, রবীন্দ্রনাথ, অলৌকিক আনন্দের ভার বিধাতা যাহারে দেন,
So I like to
বক্ষে তাহার।
exactly. I like to say what I say to Nando. It says that the brick and the stone has no pain, only human has.
Mhm.
And in that context, she's very right. Let me quote from Oscar Wilde, when he was
Definitely.
when he was
How it can be Farooq Azuman without Oscar Wilde? It should be.
right, and when he was imprisoned at I'm forgetting the name because of his homosexuality. Then he said that the prison has turned his heart into stone. He said, breaking a heart, I'm paraphrasing, to break a heart is not a tragedy, but when heart turns into stone, that is a tragedy.
Right. It's very true. Very
It,
true.
yeah, I know, it's a reading from Gewel. It's a wonderful. He's my most favorite, so I quote him all the time
Yeah.
because I find him very pertinent. But let me read few comments. Milton Ahmed, as I said, he's an actor, very talented guy, New York. He says, "Thank you, everyone. We all really enjoyed the poetry today." Dr. Azam, thank you for a wonderful presentation today. Thank you very much, Milton Ahmed. Good luck waiting for the next one, sure. And he says, "Ba chamatkar munmun, Sayyida Hasina, Sayyida Hasina Ara Karim, nice মুনমুন আপু, ফজলুর রহমান, অসাধারণ একটা আয়োজন, মিস করে গেলাম অনুষ্ঠানটি, আমাদের কবিতার অনেক অনুবাদ হওয়া উচিত, এক্স্যাক্টলি, দিস ইজ দ্য ফার্স্ট টাইম a beautiful combination meet the Bengali and English poems. Congratulations, we all wait for more such kind of events." Thank you very much. It's a very important comment. Actually, you can watch our program even after. You can go to channel 52 and you can watch these programs that is happening now. You can watch the full thing.
You see,
So,
Farouk, there is an audience for poetry still.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
there is,
Thank you
but
all.
it is not as large as the audience or the readers of the prose or
It's more
fiction.
select.
More select. Yes. It's amazing. I mean, Fazlur Rahman, yes, I will. Okay, thank you everyone for participating. Fair, thank you for your time. Uh, you are salute because
Thank you.
without tea, poetry is incomplete. It is a, if you have to be a poet, you must be a not a teetotaler, but you must love tea.
And the teacups are tired because of this storm. Okay.
What is the point of having tea if you sleep at night?
So some people say that when they take tea, they don't sleep at night. But for me, it's the other way. When I feel sleepy and I take coffee, I feel more sleepy. Sleepier. Okay, thank you everyone for
Thank you.
participating. So, if you want to say last few words for like few seconds, Fair, you have anything to add beside what you told, what you said?
Well, my favorite word has become Donovat, but I'll say it in
Don't know what?
Yucatec Mayan. In Yucatec Mayan, there are two ways to say it. Dios botik, and also it's preferred now by many. Nip olal. So gracias to you all.
Gracias. And we said de nada.
See.
Imran, just few seconds. Last words.
Uh, Gracias, Fernando.
Gracias a ti, de nada.
Yeah, good.
Hola.
And
Hola, hola.
Spanish is a beautiful language.
Yes, yes.
I had many Spanish friends when I was in New York doing my residency. Laila, you have anything to add before we
Yeah, thank you
conclude?
very much, all the audience who have listened to us for I would say a long time. And then I would like to say thanks to Channel 52, Mr. Farooq Azam. And I would also like to thank Fair and Imran to be with us and with me and all the all out there who loves poetry. And it's my utmost request, everyone, to read poetry. It still keeps you alive and makes the life beautiful. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
before I
Me gesta, just a minute, me gesta tu poesía.
Gracias. A mí me gusta la tuya. Gracias.
Okay,
that
fine.
means you loved it, right?
Yes, I loved it.
Um,
Yes.
Let me conclude. Before I conclude, let me read this comment from Farah Hussain. Laila Farzana loved your last poems, last line. Can I get the poem, please?
ডেফিনেটলি এই কবিতাটি আমার ঝরা পাতার র‍্যাপসোডি বইতে তো আছেই। এবার ২১শে বইমেলাতে হচ্ছে। লাস্ট লাইনটি হলো, "আর ভালোবাসা সে তো একটি প্রচলিত ধারণা মাত্র।" আর পাবেন বইটি আমি 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 ব্যবস্থা করে দেব।
So if you want to hang out after the show, we can still chat. ওকে, সবাইকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকার জন্য আজকের এই আমাদের এখানে রোববার দুপুরটা আমাদের সঙ্গে কাটানোর জন্য এবং আমার সঙ্গে যারা ছিলেন সবাইকে অনেক ধন্যবাদ। ফায়ার, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ।
Thank
ইমরান,
you.
থ্যাংক ইউ। ফারজানা, লাইলা, থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ। এবং আপনারা যারা আমাদের সঙ্গে থেকে কমেন্ট করেছেন তাদের সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ। আপনারা সবাই ভালো থাকুন, নিরাপদে থাকুন। শুভেচ্ছায় ফারুক আজম ফ্রম চ্যানেল 52।